Hey there, this is Wake Angel 2001. We're doing this week's Sonic Boom Vlog. I just finished watching the episode literally seconds ago, and well, this is a sports episode. I'm rather ambivalent about sports, but I gotta admit, it can be entertaining when it's used as a, as a plot device. Okay, if you ever saw a sports movie in the 90s, then you pretty much saw this episode. Okay, so it starts simply enough. You have everybody practicing soccer to an uplifting, musical beat, like some pop song about believing in my feet. And Sonic talks about how much he likes working at the rec center. So, playing at the rec center. But the mayor's going to shut down the rec center because they need the budget for a new houseboat. Because, the administration's corrupt. So everybody decides to team up and get a petition to government to keep the rec center open. And they say 2 people is 30% of the town. I don't think that's right. Because I'm pretty sure the population of the town is higher than 6. Anyway, that's just how things work. So they get the petition filled out. They make some jokes about democracy, and when they present it to the mayor, he shreds the documents because he says even though this is a perfectly legitimate way, in real life you would actually get the government to do something. They're only 2 minutes into the episode, so that they can't possibly resolve that fast. That's when Eggman comes in and says that he wants to buy the rec center. So that he can tear it down and build a new rec center that would be only for him. Because Eggman just loves to hog stuff for himself. So the mayor says that the only way to get ownership of the rec center is to win it in an athletic competition, and because they're ruled by laws, which may be silly and arbitrary and convenient for the plot, but that's how it goes. Like, okay, Mayor, we may have to exile you on the grounds that if you keep breaking the fourth wall so much, you're going to damage my TV screen. Seriously, Mayor, come on. A little bit of fourth wall humor is something, but you just kind of exist to undermine the show's tension. Alright, so that was, so that's the setup. So Sonic and his team say that they'll challenge Dr. Eggman to a soccer competition, but Eggman doesn't have a team. So, of course, Eggman goes to his robots. Unfortunately, he chooses a bunch of robots that don't have feet. Cubot and Orbot that hover around and their little stump can't reach the ball. Then you have Obliterator Bot with his gigantic tank treads, which just flattens the ball. And one of his shark robots that just kind of flops helplessly around on the ground because it's rather dangerous in the water, but, shark isn't much threat on land. I know that Dr. Eggman has at least a couple of robots. Oh yeah, he even has his ballast stuffing robot that just kind of shoots paper at the ball and barely moves it. But I know Eggman has some robots that have feet. There's a couple. I know there's definitely a couple. Like, there's that bunny robot. One of his bigger robots, although I guess they would be kind of large. And okay, I guess any robot that's small enough to fit 5 of them on a soccer field are in fact too big to. They in fact do not have legs. I mean, his Crabbots have legs, but something tells me that they wouldn't be very good at kicking. Says Wake Angel as he looks up at his desk and sees his Crabbot figure. Alright, so he figures that the best way he could do it is to recruit. He needs somebody that can not only have feet, but would also be a physical match for Sonic's team. So the ones he thinks of are the Cyborg Sonic team. So it's back to Morristown. Although I think they renamed it Robotsburg or something. They called it that. It doesn't matter. They didn't call it Robotropolis, so it's not a good name. Or Sky Sanctuary. That would have been a good name too, but whatever. So Dr. Eggman lands his rocket in the city, and he thinks about how he's going to attract their attention, only to get a whole bunch of lasers shot at him from Cyborg Sonic's team. He says that he wants a peaceful proposal, and he'll give them a gift. He pulls up a step counter, which counts your steps. He uses it for his obsessive counting. I knew it. Dr. Eggman is autistic. And so he sits through the proposal, and the fourth wall is broken again as we do a gag where we cut to him finishing a speech that says, "You didn't propose anything. You just walked into the room and said, and that's my proposition." Like, oh, I'm sorry, the cue cards are out of order. So he makes the actual proposition on camera, and they reject him at first, but he says, "I understand. You can still have the gifts." So they put their step counters on, and it mind controls them because their mind control wristbands. They have organic brains. I didn't think that you could just hack an organic brain. That's the very reason why they were built. So that Tails' mind control robot couldn't control them because it could only control electronic devices and not organic beings. And if Dr. Eggman has wristlets that can control organic brains, why doesn't he just use this to control people in the city to do what he wants? I'm going to say that maybe it's because although the organic brains in the cyborgs are, as I said, organic, they're not actually structured like actual living creatures' minds. That's the only thing I can think of. Because, hey, they barely count as cyborgs anyway. I mean, yes, they are robots that have organic components, but is that really enough to make you a cyborg? I mean, I don't know. Technically speaking, we don't have an official definition for cyborg yet, because, cyborgs sort of barely exist outside of a few, I think they're getting pretty good with prosthetics, but, we're kind of stretching the definition of cyborgs. I don't know. Until real science catches up with fiction science, guess we're going to have to give this a slide. We're down at the soccer field where Sonic and his friends are practicing when the cyborg team shows up, and at first they're like, "Oh, hey, bros," but then they're being mind controlled, and wow, you really just flew in. Oh, another fourth wall moment. You really just flew in at the right time to answer that question. Actually, I was hiding behind a tree until a few moments ago, but it was worth it for the setup, for the timing. Stop breaking the illusion, okay? Jeez, your show is just fine without having to break the fourth wall all the time, guys. You aren't Deadpool. Okay, so they practice soccer, but they're so evenly matched that it would be really difficult for the cyborg team to win. So Dr. Eggman, he hesitates to do this because it's so evil, but he decides to install a firmware update that would give them the personality of high school jocks, which would give them a competitive edge. Again, organic minds, not actually structured like living creatures' brains, just organic circuitry. That's what I'm going to say. So apparently you can just update firmware into this thing. Although I do like the fact that they actually call them cyborgs, not just robots, because hey, if they just called them the Robot Sonic team, I would point out the organics. I would point out the organic brains and say that's not really very robotic, but scientists are actually experimenting in using organic parts in machines. It's pretty interesting, like muscle fibers and even artificial neural nets. So this could actually be a real field of science not too far from now. But I digress. So anyway, he gives them the personalities of dumb jocks, and now they play dirty. Apparently they play just clean enough to not be violating the rules, but yeah, they play really, really dirty and harsh. And they're also bullies now because, of course, Dr. Eggman would say the most evil thing in the world is a high school bully because, you know that back in high school he was a nerd. So as far as he's concerned, bullies that pick on smart kids, that's the evilest thing that exists. How did this continue? There's a scene in Mad Burger where Sonic and Tails are trying to order a Mad Burger and disappointment-sized fries, but the bully bots come in and shove them away and start wrestling each other on the counter. Like, you know what? I'm not even gonna repeat their dialogue because, you know, they're dumb jocks now. I hate dumb jocks. So we actually get to the soccer game, and because they play rough, they actually get ahead in the first half. But that's when Tails realizes that they have a weakness. Their dumb jockness gives them a competitive edge and extra violence, but they're dumb. And because they're dumb, they're not as adaptable. So by changing up their strategy, they'll be able to confuse them and score the goals. So they play some music and they start doing a choreographed dance sequence, which looks really cool, if a little bit out of place. And at first I thought they were trying to change this into a dance competition, but apparently You Got Served is not something we're parodying here. We're doing sports parodies, not dance parodies. So they use all kinds of unconventional techniques and are able to outmaneuver their cyborg duplicates. And at one point, the cyborg duplicates seem to start going, does not compute. Like, you are not talking like someone with an organic brain. Not a biological brain, just organic-based circuitry. I keep having to remind myself of that. So the Tails. So Sonic's team was able to make a comeback in the second half, and they win. They get control of the rec center. The mayor decides that since the rec center is so popular, he's not going to shut it down because it wouldn't be politically expedient. And everyone says yay. He says he's going to shut down the library anyway, to which everyone says yay, except for Amy Rose, who's like, aw. And like, seriously, I know. I personally haven't been to my local library in years. It's just not something I've had to go to for a while. Because, you know, I don't really have much of a use of physical books that much. But I know other people do. And if I were to find out that my local library was going to be shut down, I'd be very upset about that. It's an important place, in principle. I don't know, that's like... I know, like, in this digital age with the wane of physical media, like, I'm still absolutely pissed off that the Barnes & Noble in the Bronx shut down. It was the only Barnes & Noble in the Bronx, and you know what? It was the only bookstore, because the other bookstores that existed were locally owned. They weren't part of big franchises, and they shut down years ago. So earlier this year, when our Barnes & Noble shut down to be replaced by a stupid Saks Fifth Avenue, we were left without a place to buy books in New York. So I gotta go all the way to frickin' Manhattan if I ever want to pick up a new manga, or if I wanna get a hardcover book, like the next publication of Bill Nye or whatever, like. Yes, I bought books. I shopped at Barnes & Noble. There was stuff I bought there, and they took it away from me to replace with another high-end clothing store, despite the fact that that stupid mall already had 5 stores that sell clothes, and we totally didn't need it. And this has absolutely nothing to do with Sonic Boom. I apologize. So Dr. Eggman, he promised to release the cyborgs after the competition because apparently mind control technology is really expensive, but since he didn't get what he wanted, he's not going to free anybody, so he tells the cyborgs to attack. There's a brief fight sequence, but Tails manages to pick out the step counters, so they get the step counters off, restoring the cyborg's minds, and then everybody teams up on Eggman. They start kicking his Eggmobile around like a giant soccer ball. And fun times. Okay, like I said, this was basically a parody of every 90s sports movie ever made. Nothing wrong with it. It was fun. Yep, this episode was fun. Nothing big about it. Yeah, like some sci-fi terminology you can get semantic over. Flippant disregard of the corrupt government. what else is new that's actually something that's moderately realistic. So it's all well and good. This is just a fine episode. Can't really say it's a high or low points in the series, but it's nice to see the cyborg guys come back. I mean, like that was a big 4-part epic that introduced these guys, so it's nice to see that they're getting more use out of those 3D models they made. And hey, if they're recurring characters, maybe we'll get toys of them. That is, if Tomy decides not to drop the license, because I've been hearing rumors that Tomy is canceling some of the toys, so who knows. I would actually like to see toys of the Cyborg team. That would be pretty fun. And not sure if I'd make customs of them, because I'd have to use the actual figures as bases, and these Tomy figures aren't very good to use for custom bases because they're just too hard to dismantle. Alright, so this has been Wake Angel 2001. We'll see you next week with another Sonic Boom vlog. And there should be some custom toys up very soon as well.